Hey, this is C&D channel. I'm Chris. This is MMA for you. I'm going to be doing my predictions for UFC Fight Night 44, Swanson versus Stevens, which happens on June 28th. Overall, I actually kind of like this card. Cub Swanson versus Jeremy Stevens is a good main event. Kelvin Gastelum's a prospect to watch out for. Craig versus Cezar could be fun, could not be fun. Got a good fight between Diaz and Ricardo Lamas. I got two prospects in Hester versus Neto. James, the Moonwalker Moontasri is fighting. Even the prelims, they have Carlos Diego Ferreira. He's a good prospect. Ray Borg is a really good flyweight prospect. Some new heavyweights, even though they're kind of on the older side. Anthony Hamilton fights Oliynyk as well. I actually kind of like this card, so let's get started. Okay, Cub Swanson fights Jeremy Stevens. Okay, Jeremy Stevens has a 23-9 record, 15 wins by KO or TKO, 3 wins by sub. He also has 3 losses by submission. He's 28 years old on a 3-fight win streak. He's beating guys like Hannah Jason and like Darren Elkins. Those are more of his biggest wins in that win streak. He's training out of Alliance these days, and he's a good kickboxer with some really heavy hands. One punch KO power. I mean, the knockouts he gets are pretty vicious too. The Marcus Davis one, the Hannah Jason one. When he knocks guys out, they go to sleep, you know. His wrestling and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu skills are improving too. You actually see him mixing in his wrestling a lot more in his fights, and his takedown defense has improved significantly as well. You saw that in the Darren Elkins fight actually. Cub Swanson, 20-5 record, 8 wins by KO or TKO, 7 wins by sub. He has 3 losses by submission. He's 30 years old on a 5-fight win streak, training out of Jackson Winklejohn. He last fought in July 2013, so it's gonna be pretty much a year layoff. He's a strong boxer. He's a really interesting style too. He kind of like darts in, you know, when he boxes, in and out. I believe he trains with Desert Storm, Timothy Bradley, if I'm not mistaken, in boxing. He's showing some really heavy hands these days. Knocked out Charles Oliveira, Ross Pearson, Dennis Seaver. So, you know, he's been knocking dudes out. He is a legit Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. And one other thing about Cub Swanson, he's just a really game opponent. Just a guy that's always in the fight for as long as the fight lasts. He also has some really slick judo style takedowns as well. Usually, a lot of times I'll see him get it from like a headlock position. The funny thing about this fight too is, as far as picking goes, I'm actually pretty bad with picking both these guys. Cub Swanson, I am notoriously bad at picking his fights. I did pick him to beat Dustin Poirier, which is cool, but I picked him to lose against Seaver, Pearson on Oliveira. Same with Mack and Cezar. Picked him to win against Ricardo Lamas, and then he lost. I have a really bad track record with Cub Swanson. I actually have a pretty bad track record as of late with Jeremy Stevens. His last 3 fights, I actually picked him to lose. So, and he won all of them pretty emphatically too, or pretty dominantly at times. I'm going to go with Cub Swanson. I think he is the better boxer. I think Jeremy Stevens, I mean, his kickboxing's good, but he's still something of a brawler. His wrestling and overall Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is improving. You get to see him use a lot more offensive takedowns and whatnot. But Swanson has a very good ground game himself. Like I said, he can also use those judo-style takedowns as well. I'm going to go with Cub Swanson to win this one. I think he's definitely a guy that is really close to a title shot for one thing, and has just been looking really good. Has been having really fun fights, knocking guys out. Gotta go Cub Swanson to win that one. Next fight after that, Kelvin Gastelum fights Nicholas Musoke. Or Musoke. I think it's Musoke. So Musoke, 12-2 record with 1 no contest, 4 wins by KO or TKO, 5 wins by sub. 28 years old on a 3-fight win streak, training out of All Stars Training Center. Other guys that train out there, Nicholas Backstrom, guy to look out for these days. I actually picked him to lose against Tommy Inimaki. Talking about Nicholas Backstrom. Backstrom just submits the guy. Magnus Settenblad trains out of there. I know Gustafson trains out of there as well. So yeah, trains out of a good gym. Does have good stand-up, relatively good stand-up. His Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is good as well. His stand-up defense is not that great though. You can see his last fight, he got dropped by an overhand right. Forgot the Brazilian guy he fought. And before that, against Oleksiy Sakara, that guy was getting hit clean in the face as well. Kelvin Gastelum, 8-0, undefeated record, 3 wins by KO or TKO, 3 wins by sub. Only 22 years old, most recently beating Rick Story. He's a good wrestler with good top control, always pushing forward. And his stand-up's greatly improving. He showed a really strong jab game against Rick Story in his last bout. I'm actually pretty high in Kelvin Gastelum. When he won the Ultimate Fighter, didn't really think much of him. I mean, yeah, he got the upset against Uriah Hall. But since then, I mean, this is a guy that has been steadily improving his game. Beat guys like Brian Melanson. Then he beat Story. So, you know, I actually don't have a good track record with Nicholas Musoke. I've actually picked him to lose his last 2 fights. He's a guy that has been surprising me. Nonetheless, Kelvin Gastelum's a guy, like I said, I'm pretty high on. He's improving at a good rate. Good prospect, still really young. Kelvin Gastelum for the win there. Next fight after that, Andrew Craig fights Cezar Ferreira. Andrew Craig has a 9-2 record, 3 wins by KO or TKO, 1 win by sub. He's 20 years old. Yeah, it's good stand-up, good wrestling. He's really athletic. I want to say he played like football in high school or college or something like that. Well, athletic guy. Didn't do too bad in the first round against Luke Barnett, but then he got dropped and eventually TKO'd or choked out. I forgot. He lost. He got finished by Luke Barnett in his last bout. Cesar Mutanch got knocked out, TKO'd by CB Dalloway in his last bout. 7-3 records, 3 wins by KO or TKO, 2 wins by sub. He also has 2 losses by KO or TKO. He's 29 years old, training out the Black Zillions. He's big for 185. Andrew Craig's actually pretty big for 185 too. He has a capoeira background, Ferreira does, with really good kicks, but I say this with Cesar Mutanch a lot. His boxing isn't very good. Both offensively, it's not the greatest, and defensively, it's pretty bad. Like I said, he got TKO'd by CB Dalloway. This guy also got wall-balled by like Sergio Moraes, who's pretty much primarily a jiu-jitsu guy. But he does actually have some pretty good Brazilian jiu-jitsu skills. His guillotine in particular is really strong. And in the Daniel Serafian fight, Ferreira has shown some improved wrestling, training with the Black Zillions and all. Which it's kind of actually tough for me to call, but I'll go Cesar Mutanch Ferreira to win that one. Next fight after that, this one's really hard for me to call because stylistically they're very similar fighters. You have Hacran Diaz versus Ricardo Lamas. Now Ricardo Lamas is coming off the loss to Jose Aldo. He has a 13-3 record with 4 wins by KO or TKO, 3 wins by sub. He also has 2 losses by KO or TKO. He's 32 years old. He's a strong wrestler with really good ground and pound. He wants an Eric Koch fight, and the guy just broke his nose pretty much, or eye or something. I mean, Eric Koch was bleeding profusely. after getting ground and pounded by Ricardo Lamas. He has good top control. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu solid as well. He beat Cub Swanson by a really nifty arm triangle, actually. And his stand-up's not bad. It's not the greatest, but it's not that bad either. Hacran Diaz, 21-2 record with 1 draw, 3 wins by KO TKO, 9 wins by sub. He's 30 years old, training out of Nova União with the likes of Jose Aldo, Renan Barão, Eduardo Dudu Dantas. He did last fight in May 2013. I want to say it's a loss to Nick Lentz. Ricardo Lamas doesn't have that same grinding style as Nick Lentz, where he can clinch against the cage, use his size, take the back at times. Hacran Diaz is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. He's a good wrestler too. He's kind of a grinder actually, with good top control. His stand-up's actually not too bad. He just doesn't show it off too much. Now this is a really interesting fight because Ricardo Lamas is coming off the fight against Jose Aldo. Didn't look too great except in the 5th round. He has some marquee wins over Eric Koch, Cub Swanson pretty early on. I don't know if he'd beat him again. And Hatsuyoki threatened Hatsuyoki with a guillotine every time Hioki went for a takedown. It's kind of a close fight though. And I can actually see Hacran Diaz maybe getting takedowns on Lamas, actually, if Hioki was able to. Hacran Diaz trains at a really good camp. That's the thing. He trains with some really good guys. He is a good wrestler. Stand-up's not too bad. So this makes it really, really tough. It's a really tough one to call. Like I kind of want to say Ricardo Lamas, but like I just don't really see anything he can do that much better than Hacran Diaz. Maybe he's a better wrestler, but that's about it. And even then, it's not like Ricardo Lamas doesn't get taken down or anything like that. So this one's tough for me to say. I mean, if you go by rank, you go by Ricardo Lamas. Hacran Diaz, I don't even know if he's like top 15. And then Lamas is coming off a fight over Jose Aldo, so he's a title contender. How much? No, this is a thing. How much do you want to value that? And when you look at his skill set, I mean, his stand-up's good. He's a strong wrestler, and it's wrestling and ground pound really good. I mean, he does have really good Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but like I said, I've seen him get taken down nonetheless. I mean, Aldo actually managed to take him down as well. I'm actually kind of tempted to go with Hacran Diaz. He trains just at a really good camp. I think he can get takedowns on Lamas, and even in his stand-up, I think he can match him. I'm gonna go with Hacran Diaz to win this one, actually. Next fight after that, Clint Hester fights Antonio Braga Neto. Clint Hester, 10-3 record, 7 wins by KO TKO, 1 submission win by strikes. Hester has 2 losses by sub. He's 27 years old on a 6-fight win streak. He has good stand-up, heavy hands, particularly good boxing. And his grappling is improving, but it's still the weakest part of his game. Whereas with Antonio Braga Neto, he has a 9-1 record with 1 no contest, 1 win by TKO, 7 wins by sub. He's only 26 years old on a 4-fight win streak, training out of Team Nogueira. And he's a legit Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, really good leg locks. He has a good chin too. If he actually wants his fight against Mikael Falco, he's getting beat up on the feet pretty bad. Managed to submit Mikael Falco. One thing that works against Neto is that he last fought in June 2013. So it's been a while since he fought. Stylistically, I kind of see this as a striker versus grappler match though. And in this case, I actually do favor the grappler here. Neto is a very high level grappler. And quite honestly, I'm actually pretty high on him as a prospect. Clint Hester isn't a bad prospect himself. He doesn't train at a reputable gym though. He is capable of landing strikes on Neto. I think Neto is capable of getting this to the ground in some way. maybe even some crazy scramble to a leg lock or something like that. So I am going to go with Antonio Braga Neto to win that one. Next fight after that, James Moontasri fights Joe Ellenberger. Now this is a funny fight because James Moontasri is actually like anywhere from the 3rd to the 5th replacement for Joe Ellenberger. I'm not kidding. Like, he's had so many different opponents up to this point. I want to even say it's the 5th replacement. I'm not kidding. I know it's up to 3 for sure, but like seriously, I've just lost count. Ellenberger, 14-1 record, 8 wins by KO or TKO, 4 wins by sub. He's 29 years old on a 2-fight win streak. He last fought in December 2012. It is his first fight in the UFC. He's a good wrestler with some decent stand-up. You know, his most recent one is against like Joe Wilk. He hasn't fought in a while, so I don't really know if he's improved that much. James Moontasri, he's taking this fight on short notice, but he fought very recently. Actually, he has this really nice KO win over Jordan Rinaldi. I want to say it's for RFA. I'm not 100% sure. I think it's either RFA or Legacy. He's the Moonwalker. It's his first fight in the UFC. He does have some good stand-up, some really good kicks. He actually beat Rinaldi, though, with an uppercut. His wrestling's alright. I mean, I think he did get taken down by Rinaldi, actually, but he's not too bad in the overall grappling department. This is a case of taking the fight on short notice might not be the worst thing just because Moontasri fought pretty recently. So it's not like there's a long break between fights. He could still be in shape, to be perfectly honest with you. I don't know if the constant opponent changes will affect Joe Ellenberger. You know, we like to, you know, his brother has found some relatively good success, not lately, but seeing Joe Ellenberger fight, he's not his brother. That's the thing. I mean, you look at the last name, and you think, oh, wow, Ellenberger, well, he must be really good. I mean, I'm not saying he's a bad fighter. He's a good fighter, but, you know, good at best is how I see Ellenberger. Moontasri, I liked what I saw in his last fight especially. I've seen him fight before, too, on, like, those Axis MMA, events, like Legacy and RFA. I forgot who's the last guy he fought before that. But that win over Rinaldi was pretty impressive. He's fought pretty recently. I'm going to go with the Moonwalker here, man. James Moontasri for the win here. Okay. On to the prelims. We got Carlos Diego Ferreira versus Colton Smith. Well, Ferreira has a 9-0 undefeated record, 5 wins by sub, 4 wins by decision. He's 29 years old. It's his first fight in the UFC. He does have strong Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu skills, and he is a brawler. Has some good notable wins. Carlo Prater, Jorge Patino. I believe he beat Patino for the Legacy title, if I'm not mistaken. Colton Smith, 3-3 record, 2 wins by sub, 1 win by decision. He has 2 losses by KO or TKO. He's 26 years old on a 2-fight losing streak to Whitaker and to Michael Chiesa. He is a grinder. He's a good wrestler. He has really good back control. Striking's decent. His stand-up defense isn't that great, though. Interesting enough, these guys have actually competed against each other on the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu circuit. I forgot who won. But overall, I'm going to go with Carlos Diego Ferreira to win this one. You know, he's a strong Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioner. I mean, if Colton Smith wins, maybe he can grind out the win. And Ferreira, I think, is going to have a stand-up advantage. He's something of a brawler, though, and a stand-up. But nonetheless, I'll go Carlos Diego Ferreira to win that one. Okay, next fight after that, Johnny Bedford fights Cody Gibson. Cody Gibson, 11-4 record, 4 wins by KO or TKO, 3 wins by sub. That's his 2 losses by submission. 26 years old. He actually had a really good bout against Aljamain Sterling last time out, if I'm not mistaken, and looked pretty good. Actually, Sterling's a really highly regarded prospect, and he looked really good against him. You know, he showed good wrestling, good striking against him. Johnny Bedford, though, 19-10 record with 1 draw and 1 no contest, 7 wins by KO TKO, 8 wins by sub. He also has 9 losses by submission out of his 10 losses. He's 31 years old, and he is big for 135. His stand-up's really good. He has some good knees. He's really aggressive, always pushing forward. His grappling, despite all the submission losses, is actually improving. You know, he doesn't get like insta-tats per se, you know. But, you know, he's not like terrible on the ground or anything like that. Or that terrible on the ground. I'm going to go Johnny Bedford. I think his aggressiveness and his forward movement is pretty much, he's a pressure fighter. I think he can work his pressure fighting style against Cody Gibson for the win here. Okay, next fight after that, Marcelo Guimaraes fights Andy Enns. Andy Enns, 7-1 record, 5 wins by submission, 2 wins by decision. Only 22 years old. Got some good Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu skills. Stand-up's kind of weak though. Marcelo Guimaraes, 8-1 record with 1 draw, 1 win by TKO, 2 wins by sub. He's 30 years old. Last fought in March 2013. I believe that was a loss to Hungyu Lim. Got kneed and knocked out from a knee. He's got some good Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu skills. Stand-up's kind of weak as well. Both these guys are very much lower tier fighters of their divisions. I mean, they're just kind of there. Kind of a coin toss. You know, Andy Enns, if I'm not mistaken, I think he fought Clint Hester. And even though he got beat up pretty bad, he was always in the fight. So you can't question a guy's heart. I think it was Andy Enns. I'm not too sure. I think it was. I should have checked. He's younger as well. I'll go with Andy Enns. Total coin flip for me though, man. Okay, next fight after that, Shane Howell fights Ray Borg. Howell's actually a late replacement too. I forgot who was supposed to fight Ray Borg, but Howell has a 13-7 record, 4 wins by KO TKO, 7 wins by sub. He also has 4 losses by submission. He's 30 years old on a 6-fight win streak. The last fight in March 2012, and it's his first fight in the UFC. I remember he fought in like Bellator actually. Don't remember too much about him though. Ray Borg though, man, 6-1 record. 1 win by TKO, 4 win. He has 4 submission wins by rear naked choke. He's only 20 years old. Trains at Fit NHB. Other guys that train out of there, I believe, is Tim Means. Trains out there, among others now too. He's a good wrestler. I was really impressed by Ray Borg in his last fight against Dustin Ortiz. Dustin Ortiz is he's a good wrestler with really good top control. He's something of a grinder, and Ray Borg managed to scramble out a lot of times when Dustin Ortiz was on top, and he even took his back and showed some really strong back control. And Borg was also just a really good scrambler as well. I was really impressed with Ray Borg, actually. Only 20 years old. I'm going to go with Ray Borg to win this one. And finally, the prelims on Fight Pass. We have Anthony Hamilton versus Oleksiy Oliynyk. Interesting fight here. Both these guys are relatively on the older side. Hamilton has a 12-2 record, 6 wins by KO TKO, 1 win by sub. 34 years old on a 6-fight win streak, training out of Jackson Winklejohn. It is his first fight in the UFC. He has some pretty good stand-up actually. He can watch his fight in MFC against Melino Rama. One with a really devastating head kick actually. He has a pretty good clinch game as well. He's pretty big, he's a big heavyweight. He's like a 260, 265 heavyweight. Whereas Oleksiy Oliynyk, I believe he's fought at 205 actually. but he has a lot more experience. 48-9 record with 1 draw, 4 wins by KO or TKO, 39 wins by sub. This guy actually, one of his go-to submissions is the very rarely used Ezekiel choke, and it's nice to use that choke with a gi on, but it's very hard to get with no gi. It's actually a move I use when I roll both gi and no gi, but this guy has been able to do it very well with no gi actually. He does have 4 losses by KO or TKO, 2 losses by submission. He's 36 years old, on a 9-fight win streak. I believe he beat Krokop in his last fight by a neck crank. Guy is very experienced. He's a veteran. He's got some strong Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and he's good off his back too. I'm gonna go with experience here. You know, I gotta go with Oliynyk to win this one. It's way more experience. He's kind of tough to figure out sometimes too. You know, he's not the cleanest like striker or anything like that. You know, Oliynyk is surprisingly good at getting fights to the ground. I think he has a sambo background as well. Yeah, I'll go with Oliynyk to win that one. Okay, to recap, on the main card, I have Cub Swanson over Jeremy Stephens, Kelvin Gastelum over Nicholas Musoke, Cezar Ferreira beating Andrew Craig, Hacran Diaz over Ricardo Lamas, Antonio Braga Neto beating Clint Hester, and James Moontasri over Joe Ellenberger. On the prelims, Carlos Diego Ferreira over Colton Smith, Johnny Bedford beating Cody Gibson, Andy Enns over Marcelo Guimaraes, and Ray Borg over Shane Howell. And on the Fight Pass prelims, Oliynyk beating Anthony Hamilton. So that's it for my predictions for UFC Fight Night 44, Swanson versus Stephens. If you have any comments, just leave them below. And that's it for MMA for you. Thank you guys very much.